Mansplaining. What are the Rockies doing? So, as you may remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked a little bit about the Pirates. After they had fired their manager, Derek Shelton, it was called into question once again, as that question probably comes up every single year for Pirates fans. What are we doing? But fortunately, we know now what it is. So I decided to do the same breakdown or something similar for the Colorado Rockies because they are bad. They're really, really, really bad. And I feel for them. I know some of the guys on the team. I've been on really bad teams before, but my God, they're really, really bad. So let's talk a little bit about how bad that this team is. The Colorado Rockies are currently 9-44. If you stretch that out for the rest of the season, they will end 28-134, which will be the worst record in the history of modern baseball by kind of a lot. And it will break a record that was set last year. So at least it's not a long-standing record, but if they continue the way that they are continuing, it is. There's a lot to go through. Let's just get into it. I can't even set this up. It's so bad. All right. So basically, I went and I found my 10 most unbelievable elements or statistics about this season so far. They kind of tell you what level of bad we are at, because there's always bad teams. It's baseball, right? Sometimes half your team gets hurt. Sometimes your whole team gets hurt, and you're running out the AAA team. Like, a lot of these things happen. Sometimes people pack it in. Sometimes there's scandals. There's all kinds of things going in. None of that seems to be the issue. They haven't lost a ton of people except for Chris Bryant, but I'll be honest, I don't know how you can count on him for anything at this point. So let's talk about statistically how bad that they truly are. Number one, as a team, they have a negative 3.8 B WAR, which means Baseball Reference thinks that if they just put if they can replace their entire team with replacement level players, they would win more games. What? That is hard to do. That is so hard to do. I believe there's been 39 players that have played in a game for them this year. So they actually have it's not necessarily a ton of injuries. There's been some injuries, but there's been also a lot of just turnover from they have a lot of young guys, whatever. So, like I just said, number two, of the 39 players that have appeared in a game, only 10 have a positive WAR. There's only 10 guys who've appeared in a game, one quarter, having a positive impact on their ability to win game in a WAR way. So I'm using B WAR. If you guys remember, we talked about WAR like 6-7 weeks ago, and the differences between Fangraphs WAR and Baseball Reference WAR is Baseball Reference WAR is results-based, Fangraphs is predictive. So we use B WAR because it's the WAR that they have earned so far that has happened. So I try to go with that when we're talking about things that are happening regular. Staying in the same WAR category, the guy leading their team in WAR is this gentleman, Jake Bird. He is a 1.4 WAR, but he is a middle reliever. You know how hard it is to have a middle reliever be your highest WAR player? Let me put this in perspective for you. The highest WAR pretty much any middle reliever will have all year will be like a 2.5. Okay? Every team's third outfielder on a solid team has more than a 2.5 WAR. So it's like that's like a utility outfielder's good year. Like that is yikes. That's a yikes. That's a big yikes. But hey, shout out to my boy Bird getting the job done, and he is having a good year. If you go look at the stats. Fact number 4. They have a negative 171 run differential, meaning the other team has scored 171 more runs than them. That's last in the MLB by 76 runs. 29th is the Baltimore Orioles at negative 95. That's a whole mess in its own. They have 76 less runs than that. And they are 172 runs behind the second worst team in the NL West. That is the Arizona Diamondbacks. So, tough. I'll give you some perspective on that. Let's extrapolate that over 162 games. That puts them on pace for negative 526 season. That would break the record set by the 32 Red Sox by 177 runs. So they would just break it by 30%. It's almost as if there was like juice balls and everyone broke the home run record in the same year. Except this is just their poor play, which is rough. It's rough out here. And let's see some F's up in the chat for that. That's not great. Number 6, starters have a 7.31 ERA combined. So we are almost 2 months through the season, and they have over a 7 as a staff. Shea, it was 308 home runs, by the way. Starters have not done very well, though a couple of them have thrown a little bit better recently. That's got to get better, and that is a major reason why they are losing so many games. Manager Bud Black was fired on May 11th when the team was 7-33. They are now 2-11 since, so problem not solved. But Bud Black was the manager there for 9 years, and he went through a lot of these stretches, but sometimes the stretch is just too bad to defend. All right, number 8. As a team, they have a .976 fielding percentage, which is horrendous. That's really, really bad. They field 97.6% of balls cleanly, which is 30th in the MLB by 3% or something, like some crazy high number. So not 3%. That would put them over 100. 0.3%. So not as bad as I said it, but still pretty bad. Last 2 doozies. They have been shut out 8 times this season in 15.1% of games total. So 1 of every 6 games, they don't score any runs. Yikes. And they have been swept 8 times out of 17 series and have yet to win any of them. So I guess the question I have to pose, because this happens every year, no matter how bad a team is, they're going to sweep someone. Who do you think they're going to sweep? My guess is the Dodgers. I bet you they sweep the Dodgers at least once. At least once. Yikes. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think? Who do you think they're going to be in their first series? Who's going to be the first one that loses the series to them? It's got to be soon, right? It's got to be. So, a couple caveats. I want to point this up. This is going to be really important to know. There's a lot of I don't want to say misinformation, but there's a lot of wrong information about how pitching changes how the altitude changes pitching. It really, really affects pitching a lot. From a physics scientific standpoint, it does. This is going to be important in a minute. So I remember my data from pitching in Colorado. I was averaging 16.5 inches of vertical ride on my fastball. In that outing, it was 12.1%. So I lost 4 inches of ride, which means the air that you get underneath your ball to keep it in the air isn't there. So gravity takes the ball more. The sweeper also, same thing. The horizontal gets hurt because there's no air underneath the ball. That's how you get it. So basically it just turns into a curveball. It's kind of dumpy. Though you still get a lot of depth, sweepers don't really work either. The only pitch that stays kind of the same is an old school gyro slider. It's pretty close. You lose a little bit of depth, but not a ton. It'll move similarly to the way it normally moves. That is the only pitch that works kind of well there, or just close to normal. So it's hard to pitch there. No matter what stuff you have, it's hard to pitch there. But the Rockies have a problem outside of not understanding this stuff. They don't really act on this at all either. So let's talk a little bit about this. Ooh, we have some breaking news really quick before we move on. Chris Taylor signed with the Angels and will be their center field for them tonight against the Yankees. So congratulations to Chris Taylor. Picked back up for all you fantasy heads out there. All right, back to it. So they're bad. They're bad, and we know they're bad, and the altitude affects it, and it's sad. They gotten so bad, though, that the team's actually getting sued by a fan partially because they're so bad. So let me tell you a little bit about that. The Rockies are being sued for being so awful that they cause injuries. Now, that's a little bit of a clickbait title. That's not the main thing being posited at them. But as of May 25th, this is yesterday, 2025, Timothy Rokel, a Colorado Rockies fan, has filed a lawsuit against the team following a severe injury he sustained during a game at Coors Field in July 2023. Rokel was attending the game in a luxury suite, his bad, and was struck in the right eye by a foul ball, resulting in what he describes as catastrophic and permanent injuries. I hope you can see. The circumstances, he basically said, because of the way the suite was set up, that you couldn't see the ball entering, you couldn't see the field, so you couldn't tell if there was a ball coming, so you couldn't be aware. Okay? So like, because you're kind of farther back, it's like they can get the ball up and over. It's almost like, I don't know, having suites just outside the fence of like a high school game, but like having it covered and you not be able to see if the ball's coming at you or not, which you are technically close enough to get hit. So you got to know about that stuff. That's valid in my opinion. There's also it also asserts that the Rockies failed to extend protective netting adequately as required by all major league ballparks. So they're thinking that had they extended their netting higher, that the ball wouldn't have gotten into the suite, and then this wouldn't have been a problem. But the last thing that was posited in this lawsuit was the claim that the Rockies' prolonged poor on-field performances led to a game day environment where spectators, particularly in luxury suites, are less engaged with the action. So they're like, hey, us up there, the rich people up there, you guys suck so bad that not only do the people down there not want to watch, but if we can't see the game, we're definitely not watching this travesty of a team you've put together. So it is officially in a charge posited in the lawsuit, which is going to be really, really interesting if that's carried through and he wins any sort of settlement from the fact that the team's bad, then owners will have to think about how the play on the field could effectively open them up to liability. Is that completely silly? Yeah, of course it is. That's so dumb. But there's just a tiny little baby part of me that wants him to get some money for that. Just to see what happens. Just a little bit. Mostly because it doesn't affect me and I don't really care. And it would be funny. I think that you guys might think it might be funny too. That's just like inherently funny. So, what do you think? What do you think? So imagine being so bad that you're getting sued. Couldn't be me. But there's also another element to why the Rockies are so bad. So let's talk a little bit about how they can get better and what we need to see, or what has caused them to get to this point and what we need to see moving forward. And just like the Pittsburgh Pirates, it all starts, well, that's their park. That's their park. It's beautiful, isn't it? It's a beautiful park. Or at least the park's beautiful. This man, Dick Monfort, Richard Monfort the fourth. I don't know if he's a fourth, but Richard Monfort and his brother Charles, because they're always named Richard and Charles, aren't they? He has been the owner. He has basically been an owner of this team, a partial owner since the team's inception in 1997, and they took over operating ownership in 2005. Dick also has a very active role in the ownership group when it comes to negotiations. He kind of leads their business negotiations team. He is the guy who sits at the table and says things sometimes, which, I mean, I don't know Dick personally. I bet you he's actually a really nice guy because he is very loyal. They focus on loyalty a lot in that place, which is a good thing most of the time. We'll talk about why maybe not this instance is great. But they basically have a reputation of being like a mom and pop shop, meaning like once you go, you're a Rocky for life and they'll take care of you. I think that's something that just you don't see very much in baseball anymore. So I'm not super sad about it, but part of that mom and pop shop kind of aura is they shirk analytics and like advanced player development. They just kind of just like go off of gut, which we've all seen Moneyball. That was 2001. That was before he even bought the team. So they are not only are they behind in this revolution, they they haven't engaged with it at all, from what I've heard. Now, I didn't play for them. Never been in the organization, and I don't know to what extent that is true. But I have heard it from too many people to ignore it at this point. Okay, since he's taken full ownership of the team, they are 1,429 and 16 and 70, good for a 458 winning percentage, which is bad. That is bad. That's a bad winning percentage. Mr. Monfort had 3 of the first 6 seasons where he was the principal owner be winning seasons, and then only 2 in the next 14. So we are in one of those situations where we have an owner who, once he took over, he had some success. By the way, one of those years was 2007 when they went to the World Series. I don't know if you remember, but they rattled off they won 21 of their last 22 games and went in and swept the first series of the playoffs, and everyone was like, what is happening? The old Matt Holliday days. So that was the 3rd year he owned outright, and he's been riding that wave ever since. We see this also with Art Moreno. He won a World Series in the first year he took over, even though he bought the team from Disney, and then won a World Series, and then got progressively worse for the rest of his ownership tenure. The same thing has happened with Dick. And the same thing kind of has happened with Hal Steinbrenner also. So, and Jerry Reinsdorf. So a lot of these guys, they get success right away, and then they just try to do that stuff over and over again. And then 20 years goes by, and here we are, and your team's 9-44, okay? So he has not shown that he has the ability to build a group of people that can win games successfully. I think that's pretty clear. He has only had 3 different GMs in those 20 years. Like I said, Bud Black was the manager for 9 years. I am a Bud Black fan. I like Bud a lot. I think there's only so much you can do as a manager. He's from my hometown as well, another little soft spot. However, in 9 years, he had a 441 winning percentage. He just didn't win. He only had 2 winning seasons. They just don't win. When you're I don't want to tell you, they just don't win. But they just kept running the same people out there to make the decisions. The same people made decisions. They kept getting new players and never changed the people making decisions. And when you lose for this much, this long, this consistently, it's probably not the players. Is it? Is it? Also, they struggle in free agency. As we all know, Chris Bryant, that has not worked out so far. Jake McGee was a tough one right away. They signed the big 3 in McGee, Brian Shaw, Wade Davis all together. They all struggled until, I believe Wade Davis threw pretty well in his last year, and Brian Shaw maybe had one of those years good, but all 3 of them signed 3-year deals. None of those went very well at all. They had Ian Desmond, who went and was okay, but was paid their biggest contract ever at that point. Daniel Murphy came, and he was, after winning a batting title, and was pretty good, but not great. Though they have hit on Michael Goodire, won a batting title there, and Justin Morneau went there, but they were cheap. They were cheap contracts. So the only thing that's working out is veteran guys who come in and sign a 1-year deal. Those guys play pretty well. Nobody else seems to do it. Yet they just keep doing it. They just keep doing it over and over again. And again, but if you don't have player development and you have no data-driven anything, then you're just not gonna develop your play. You're just not gonna. They just have to run into players, is what's happening. And I don't wanna dunk on their players too much, because I think there's only so much you can do as well. You got to be put in a position to win. You got to be given the good information. You got to be open and honest and be able to talk to the people who are teaching you. You got to learn. And if the people around you aren't very good at it, what are you supposed to do? It's like colleges. There are colleges that are better than others, that have better programs and better information and better teachers. It's just the way it is, all right? So let's talk a little bit about what we've talked about in the other ones. Dick Monfort, what kind of owner is he? Well, you guessed it. He is an inherited owner. He is someone who inherited his money from his parents and then took over a baseball team, though he didn't inherit the team from them. He inherited the money. Okay, so then he bought in because he's a big baseball fan. He is. I've heard that about him. He loves being around. He is in view. He is approachable, which is another, I think, a checkbox in his. He does that, and he is loyal. I like those 2 things. At least from a human standpoint, he sounds like a guy that at least people want to be around. And most billionaires aren't that way because they suck. So I will give him his due accolades for that. But as we talked about last week, inherited owners tend to be slower on this data-driven revolution, and his lack of movement at all in that side of things it lines up pretty well. Also, the nature of where they are and how physics are different means they should be the #1 data-driven team. They should be inventing new types of equipment to play there. They should be doing that. Instead, they're just like, go do your best. We'll see what happens. They literally have there's like no analytics people in this thing. They do the bare minimum. They get people their scouting reports, and that's just about it. And it's usually just general stuff, and anything else you want additionally, you have to go get yourself, which is not how it should be. So they're not data-driven. He's an inherited owner who does not make fast decisions or really, he doesn't like to change because things have been good for him so far. That's all he's known, is things being good, and sometimes that's what happens. I'm not like mad about these guys about this, but I don't think they would admit that if you asked them, which would be an issue. So you have to grow, and you have to iterate, and you have to adjust. And guys like Dick tend to struggle doing that in baseball. They just tend to not be great sports owners, and I think he's proved that. And they are loyal, but there's such thing as being too loyal. Once again, only 3 GMs in 20 years. They should be having way higher turnover if they're trying. Only a couple managers in those years. They should be not letting a manager should not be able to stick around for 9 years and have a .440 winning percentage in the major leagues. That shouldn't be possible. And however, here we are. It is, and it is not great. So, if you are a Rockies fan, unfortunately, you're going to have to wait for someone who has not been a Rocky in the Rockies organization to come in and get a little bit of leash to make some decisions. Like that, it has to start there. They have to try that, and they haven't tried it yet. So I wouldn't hold your breath because you might pass out. You might be waiting for a while, but until this man makes decisions like that, or another owner comes in and does that, or that's it. That's really it. It starts at the top of the pyramid. It starts up here, and being really, really committed to making those decisions and having hard conversations and letting people go that aren't getting the job done. You have to be able to do that, and Dick Monfort has not shown that he has the ability to do that. So that is what it is, and that's where we are. And it's unfortunate, but it is the world we live in, and that is what I believe is wrong with the Rockies, and I don't really see a light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sorry to say.